One of the most successful entrepreneurs in America over the past 50 years is going public with his fourth and final prediction about a scenario he calls America's nightmare winter. You've probably never heard of Bill Bonner, but in addition to owning an interest in businesses all over the globe, he also owns more than 100,000 acres with massive properties in South America, Central America, the US, plus 3 large properties in Europe. Bonner says we're about to enter a very strange period in America, which could result in the most difficult times we've seen in many, many years. Bonner has made 3 similar predictions in his 50-plus year career, and each one proved to be exactly right, although he was mocked each and every time. This is why I strongly encourage you to read about Bonner's fourth and final prediction totally free today. It's all spelled out in a free report we've put together about America's nightmare winter scenario. Get the facts for yourself. Go to americasnightmarewinter.com to get your free copy of this report. Even if he's only partially right, it will dramatically affect you and your money. So again, go to americasnightmarewinter.com for this free report. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show. Here with me today is Clem Chambers, the CEO of Online Blockchain. And I want to talk Bitcoin with Clem today because the meltdown of FTX has sent the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies tumbling more than 60% this year. And the carnage has now spread to publicly traded companies with exposure to digital assets. Clem, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Is the worst over for Bitcoin here?
Well, the interesting thing is you say that all the FTX happened and knocked the price down. It could be the other way round, you see. And, you know, people like to put a name or a person or a group into something that's happened, where in effect it might be the thing that happened that made these names do the thing that they did. And, you know, I think that markets quite often are more about the systemic underlying dynamics, which are often quite abstract and about money flow or big issues that are bubbling along underneath the system, than it is about Fred did this or Bill did that or Sam did this. And no, I don't think it is all over. You see, the thing that people don't realize is a centralized exchange is a bad thing. Firstly, it's centralized. That's a bad thing because the whole point about crypto is it was decentralized, but getting past all that mumbo jumbo. The other thing is that these exchanges are not exchanges at all. They're banks. You deposit your money there and you play with it. And what happens to that money? It happens to what that money goes where it does with banks, where the bank wants it to go. An exchange is an accounting system. You give it your Bitcoin and it puts it in its wallet and it says you've got that Bitcoin. And then you buy, sell, maybe you make, maybe you lose. But you're not actually working with those cryptos at all. It's just a game. It's a text graphic game you're playing, which keeps score. And that money's just sat there. And they could go, ooh, a friend of mine's got this project. Maybe I should invest. Where am I going to get the money from? My profits or that big bag of cash over there that belongs to the depositors? Yeah. And nothing is out there that says that they shouldn't, couldn't, won't play with that money. Because it's not a stockbroker account where it's segregated funds. If I was an exchange, a crypto exchange, I probably couldn't even segregate your funds because the banks wouldn't let me open enough accounts to do that. So whether they're mentally segregated in the owners of the exchange's minds or not, because they might go, well, you know, it's not segregated funds. It's just like a derivative, not segregated. Oh, we need a new advertising campaign. Your money advertising campaign. Oh, we need to be on a stadium. There's some more of that money. We like that money. Put our name on that YouTube advertising campaign, etc. Oh, let's wash trade our noddy assets to the moon and spend your Bitcoin doing it. Oh, it's all gone. Oh, it's all gone wrong. Bang. But who hasn't done that? Who hasn't done that? That's the question.
Right. You're saying they just got caught.
Well, I'm saying that they were like all those dodgy banks that blew up in 2008 on speed. Because the people that have set up these exchanges are all entrepreneurial, high risk, risk-taking, risk-hungry, proved by the crypto boom to be complete geniuses. And there they are seeing these bags of money that doesn't belong to them as a way to make even more. And then the market turns, and all of a sudden, they're fools and criminals, and their companies go bang. Now, which ones are going to go bang soon? Because when they go bang, Bitcoin's going down even further, isn't it?
Who do you think is next?
Well, I'll probably get sued if I said. But,
right.
I mean,
But you're not surprised?
It's...
You wouldn't be surprised
it's the media
if more
curse,
to follow
isn't
suit.
it? It's a media curse. Who are the people that have been shouting out their mouths off a lot? Who have been putting their name on stadiums? Who've been spending huge fortunes? Who've got huge offices and thousands of staff, yet haven't IPO'd and raised hundreds of millions? Who has been running around trying to get their hands on other people's cash to fill up their own hole, perhaps? Yeah? I mean, if you take all the field marks of FTX and go round applying them to other exchanges, you'll start going, ooh, ah, ooh, ow, as I do.
So let me ask you this, Clem, if I'm hearing you correctly. There's obviously a much bigger problem at play. So let's talk about, would you blame the SEC and regulators for not coming in sooner, for not putting regulation? Or is it just going to be, and I'm bringing up Bernie Madoff because there's so many comparisons being made to Madoff, that it took Madoff for regulators to step in and finally make changes?
Well, I mean, I don't think, again, that's how it works. Regulators are there to regulate, and they fail. And then they change the rules, and then they fail. And then they change the rules again, and then they fail. And then they change the rules again, and then they fail. That's how regulators operate. So, if you want to talk about regulation, you want to talk about why don't they do a better job? And it's like our whole lives are now completely crippled by KYC and AML. And remember, that was about stopping drugs and drug dealers. Well, there's more drugs today than there's ever been, and yet every time we sneeze, we have to fill out a KYC document and an AML document. So...
Well, people want to give blame somewhere, Clem. So where would, they want to point the finger at someone.
Well, they should point it at themselves then, shouldn't they?
At something.
They made the mistake. They got carried away. They're the ones that posted at skeptics like me, oh, enjoy being poor. Yeah, they're the ones that said it was going to go. So you're saying,
are you talking about the individual, like you're saying investors should be pointing to themselves for fall? Yeah. But they fell for the marketing machine, right? Like first, and SBF comes out saying, I'm a wonder kid, I'm some sort of like business tycoon,
That's correct.
Yeah, but how are you, but is that fair? Is that fair? I mean, and I say we because media gives these players the platform to speak to the folks. I mean, and then they get all these superstars, Tom Brady, Giselle, Kevin, promoting it.
Well,
people that others trust. I mean, is it really fair to, at the end of the day, it just seems very simple to say, well, at the end of the day, you could just blame yourself.
Yeah, well, I think that's the place to start.
SBF has to take...
And do you know what? Most good investors are the first people to blame themselves and take a loss. And the bad investors, the ones that like to gamble, are the first people to cry, mummy. And is it fair to infantilize people so that they're, don't have to worry too much because, mummy and daddy will look after them and big brother will look after them. We're the regulators, we'll look after you. Oops, we didn't. Yeah. And, the next stock market scandal, the next stockbroker scandal, the next Ponzi scandal, the next banking scandal.
Right.
Yeah. Well, scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal. So the only real protection from that is to do your own research, play the game properly. And if you make a loss, you make a loss. And, you could have been reading all about this in my column on Fools for the last 18 months to 2 years.
No, and I agree that at the end of the day, we are just responsible for our own decisions and consequences, everything we do in our life. Absolutely. But getting back to what SBF deserves, do you think he deserves to go to jail?
Well, you see, the way that I look at it, America has this major problem in that, if you do something like this wrong, you get life imprisonment for the rest of your life. And I don't think that is right. It's like Papillon, off you go to Devil's Island for the rest of your life. I don't think people who do things like that should get life in prison, the rest of their life in prison. I don't think that's right. Should they go in prison for a few years? Absolutely, yeah, sure. But for the rest of their lives, I don't think so. And America does that to people. You get 9 million years in jail. And I think that's that draconian way that things happen in America devalues the justice system, because I don't think somebody losing a lot of money is the same as being murdered. And the same to be punished as if you murdered people is I think I don't agree with that. So do I agree that he should they should throw him in jail? Yeah. Do I think they should throw him in jail for the rest of his life, or whatever, 50 years of it? No. But yeah, and not from your country, that's your system. That's the way that it's handled. But it seems to me very, 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 very harsh.
I want to get to your forecast, because the last time we spoke, Clem, you were concerned that if Bitcoin were to hit the 17,000 handle, that 10K could be in store next. Well, here we are speaking today. Right now, a little over 17,000. You sticking to the 10,000?
Well, what I described earlier is the dynamic. And if you look at Grayscale with 600,000 Bitcoin in its bucket, hopefully, and it links to DCG, who readily admit they owe hundreds of millions to, I need to get the right G here, Genesis. Yeah. I mean, how's that going to pan out? Now, if they all go bust, maybe the liquidator will lock it all up in so much legality, they won't get sold for 10 years. But, the knock-on effects of FTX, which are the knock-on effects, really, of 3 Arrows Capital. I mean, there could be a lot of people out there right now doing a Wile E. Coyote, and they've run off the cliff, and their legs are going around in thin air. And we're just waiting for the days to go by before they, say, right, we're going to have to go busting. Or not. I mean, who knows what the situation is and under what regulations lots of these outfits are. I mean, how can a parent company owe a subsidiary hundreds of millions and still stay in business? And what happens to its subsidiaries? And then what happens to all the people who've got all money in there? And what happens to the people who have bought Grayscale, for example, if they get into even further trouble? What happens to them? The contagion here is really, really significant. And, either nothing else happens, by some miracle, nothing else goes wrong. Or there's going to be, the dominoes are going to start falling one after the other. And if those dominoes start going bang, 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 then, you could easily see Bitcoin down in the 7,000, 8,000s.
But bigger case, because when I first met you, Clem, you were a full believer in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was, and I still am.
What's your long-term stance? Okay, so long-term, you still believe in Bitcoin? Because, a lot of people are calling me up, and obviously I can't give financial advice, but they're saying, well, I've lost a lot, thousands, hundreds of thousands in Bitcoin, millions, and now I'm looking at whatever's left thinking, should I just get out now and save myself? I mean, big picture, there's a huge question mark on the fate.
Well, I always think if you have to ask, then you shouldn't do it. Yeah. And so I suppose if you had to ask to get in at the top, you're in a court between really not knowing what you're doing, and if you don't know what you're doing, you should be out. But if you've got a firm picture of what's going on, you should navigate with that. For me, that was Bitcoin goes through a cycle. It goes up like a rocket and down like a rock. And every time it halvens, the peaks double and the troughs double. So, it was 3,500 last time, so it should be around 7,000 this time. And you fold new information in. I really wouldn't have believed all this incredible internecine self-dealing that's been going on out there amongst the centralized finance people. See, Bitcoin's decentralized. The whole thing that I love and believe in is decentralized, not centralized. And it's the centralized bit that's going pear-shaped, as it would, because where there are resources, there are predators, and the predators can't get into decentralization. So they get into centralization. So all the predators are there. And in a boom, they all look like geniuses, and in a bust, they all look like criminals and fools. And we're in the bust phase. So where is the bottom? Well, the bottom is, I thought, 13. But with all these, crazy situations that I really didn't think, I'd never thought that an FTX would occur. And, I'm literally surprised by how far over the event horizon they went. I mean, they basically traded away billions of dollars of other people's money, and it's off the dial. And I believe that other people could be equally or nearly as bad as that, and that may come to light.
And so, given the cycles and the patterns of Bitcoin, how long does this, frozen winter tundra last?
Another 18 months. 2024. I have a bad memory for that date, but I remember it being 2024.
So let me, on that note, let me bring up an article that's trending this morning. Investor Tim Draper he's been saying for the longest time, Bitcoin's going to reach 250,000. He's now moved this price point to sometime next year. And this is his rationale. I'm curious to get your point on this. He says that Bitcoin's breakout next year is that there remains a massive untapped demographic for Bitcoin, women. Quote, he says, my assumption is that since women control 80% of retail spending and only 1 in 7 Bitcoin wallets are currently held by women, the dam is about to break.
A lot of people are going to be saying damn, for sure.
What do you think about that thesis and thought process?
I don't know. What planet is he from? I mean,
apparently the same as ours.
People are going to be licking their wounds or licking other people's wounds for months after FTX. It's going to be a headline that crypto is for the birds until further notice. It's not going to be to the halvening that there's going to be any, buying pressure. And it's not going to be until there's absolutely gnashing of teeth that anybody's going to be going in to buy. I mean, I was in the past tempted to think about it at under 20,000, but when it got there, it was like, it didn't feel final. And then when this FTX thing happened, it doesn't feel final, does it? It hasn't happened. It's still unresolved. The Genesis thing is unresolved, and therefore the Gemini thing is unresolved, and therefore the Grayscale thing is unresolved. And if they don't resolve miraculously, there'll be other people that will be unresolved. And where does it all end? Well, it ends in what's called capitulation. And in being from equities, you'll know that thing, capitulation. We haven't had it. We haven't had it in equities either. And until I feel has been a capitulation, we're still in the process. We're still on the road. So, suddenly, the women will rise up, and Bitcoin, all of a sudden, is I think, I don't know, maybe on another planet somewhere in a galaxy far away.
I mean, I agree with you, and I read that, and I don't think that's a question of a matter of months. I mean, this would take years to change that system and then to finally be reflected in the price. But you did mention equities. Let's go there a second. S&P down, NASDAQ down, Dow down as we're speaking now. More pain ahead for U.S. stocks?
Well, I'm caught between a bit of a rock and a hard place. I cannot believe that we've seen the bottom. It just doesn't, I just can't get it through. I can't get a narrative in my head that says this happened and that happened and that's great and this is good. Oh, it's going to be better now. It seems to be that we're still digging a hole in the world economy. Thanks mainly to China, still not grasped that we're dealing with Omicron now. And the fiscal deficits that are being run all over the world, how's that going to be anything but terrible? How are interest rates not going to carry going up? How is inflation even going to come down by much? Well, maybe it's working through the system right now, but nonetheless, we're looking at 2 or 3 or 4 years of really bad road ahead. And the markets are really elevated. I mean, Warren Buffett's losing money. I mean, what else do you need to know?
Well, let me ask you. Let's end on this. Just final point here. Gold up almost 6% in the past 30 days. Clem, a lot of folks saying that gold's looking pretty good as we're closing out the year here.
I took a real bath in gold. I have not lost that much money in 20 years on anything as I lost in the last 9 months on gold. And of course, the answer is, Mad Vlad is selling his gold to keep his war going. And until, Mad Mr. Putin, is no longer at the helm or changes his mind about the terrible things he's doing, then there'll be selling pressure on gold, and it'll be going through, the Middle East and out in Asia. And gold is going to be coming out of Russia every month to pay for that war, help pay for that war. And if you look at the reason the gold went up over the last long period before that, it matches Russia's purchasing of their gold reserve. Well, now they're going to be selling, aren't they? And that is suppressing gold. So even though we've got ridiculous runaway inflation, even though, we've got war, and even though we've got plague, we've got at least 3 of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse riding about, gold hasn't done very well because it's a big seller. Now, the good news is, I think it's good news, but I might be proved wrong in the future. The good news is, as soon as the Ukraine-Russia war is over, gold will go ballistic because that seller will go. And there'll still be that inflationary history, which hasn't really appeared in the gold price, or hasn't appeared at all in the gold price. So that will then rejig itself as the balance of gold buying and selling will shift.
And everything is relative. I know you say gold hasn't done well, down, 2% for the year. We started talking about Bitcoin.
Well, I liked
Bitcoin
it when it was 2,100.
60%.
I liked it when it was 2,100 at the beginning of the year. That was nice. I enjoyed that. I wasn't actually losing my shirt at that point.
Clem, take it home for us. Final thoughts for our viewers watching.
Yes.
Blow us away.
When we get capitulation in these markets, count to 10 and buy, go boots in. And you'll know when it's capitulation because everybody will be crying it's the end of capitalism as we know it. It's the end of crypto as we know it. And that moment will come. I don't believe we've seen it, but when you do see it, you'll know it. And that will be the time not to cry it's the end of crypto, it's the end of equities, it's the end of capitalism. That will be the time to buy. And then it will go up a long way and you'll make a ton of money.
Clem, thank you so much. If I don't speak to you again before the end of the year, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Happy holidays and all the best. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you for watching. We'll have more great content coming your way. So be sure to stay tuned to the Daniela Cambone Show and sign up at danielacambone.com to stay on top of it all. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.